Thank you, Kamal, for that deeply disturbing film. I remember when I saw it a few days back to prepare for this session, I, f- I was I was really disoriented. I was moved. I felt angry, and but I think I really yearned for a resolution. Which you so beautifully you decided not to give to to all of us. But my question right now is really, I want to start with the origin, with the genesis of this film. How is it? What happened? Like, what made you make this film? I know that it has, it's inspired by real events, and so is your film Pada. And what is it about dramatizing reality?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Urban Lens Film Festival, for inviting here in Bangalore. Thank you. And coming to the film, it started quite accidentally, like when we friends were talking about our general day-to-day life in Bombay. Somebody mentioned that something like this happened at her home. So, and like somewhere that like maybe a passive comment on something banal happened at her home, like haunted me for few days, and like I thought, what if she pursued it? Like, because I think that is where like me coming in as a maybe a character also as a writer, like I took it further and I just thought about it in like comprehending all kinds of mood that you referred after watching this film that I was going through at that point living in Mumbai. So that was the genesis.
So it's interesting how you then crafted the two characters, because both the characters are outsiders, they're migrants to the city, and they're marginalized, both of them in their own way. But the way the city looks at both of them is very different. And within the city, the way the state looks at them, right? One is legal, one is legitimate and legal, the other is disenfranchised and anonymous. So what was it that you were trying to configure here, play here with this whole notion of disenfranchised urban?
Because I would say the nuances comes from this same feeling that you are mentioning, as you mentioned. Because I am also like, because if you ask me to pose it in this film, I will pose it as the painter who collapses there. So that is like me as a writer positing myself, and like I am trying to see it, the outwardness of that moment. So like as I was writing the script, I realized that like, okay, this is the story, this is the happening that I am trying to coincide inside my narrative. But like the kind of feeling I have to create, the experience I have to create is something else. And that is what I was like trying to seek inside that process, experimenting with some abstract notions about the idea of inside outside, in a very abstract way, not in a very deep philosophical way, or I don't have that kind of claims. And that is what I wanted to try in my mise-en-scene, because that was the whole process in brief words, I would say.
I will ask one more question, then I'll open it. Talking about your viewing, your mise en scène, or your inner view of while you were making this film. I want to just talk about the city, because this film it's very Mumbai, right? There are lots of films where city can become incidental. So it has the middle class high rise living, which we begin with in the film, and then the film opens up, and Charu goes from her Mumbai to another Mumbai, and you have the locals, and you have the landfill, and you have the slums, and through this entire journey that we go through with Mumbai, the city is throbbing, and it is it is a ruinous city. It is in decay from the first scene till the end. So I'm very curious to know your inner viewing, your inner world that kind of brought this particular Mumbai out.
Again, when I was writing the script, what I thought about the kind of polarities that we posit about spaces that we live in, whether it's urban or rural, I thought that like every space has got its own meaning and manifestation. So an urban space is a space that we seek refuge or find a better hope, maybe, like in many levels. So city is not something, for me, is not something like, which is like dreadful or in that sense, but like it is a developing city. The entire thing, like right now, like Bombay is still constructing many structures. So it's like a ever growing city. So it's a kind of unending process of creating urban spaces, like with some kind of, so that is the kind of feeling I got from that space when we sought that hope or a better feeling, maybe a better freedom sometimes. But like what you see around is not like it slowly enters into you and asks so many questions about yourself also, about your identity. And again, like I thought about like what is the inner space of a city. So most of the time when we talk about any city, like we always refer to the most grand part of that urban space. Like the most of the time it will be the old city areas. But like, is it the inner part of the city? So like once after I wrote the script, the basic script, I started taking the journey of this character, like going inside the spaces, like alone most of the time. Like the second time I went with my basic crew, 2 or 3 my crew members, and visited again. And like I visited all these places many times. That is where I associated with National Alliance for People's Movement and their activists. So so then I realized that this is the inner part of the city, which you want to hide most of the time. And that is what like the urban spaces are becoming. That is why like Narendra Modi, our Prime Minister, is making sure that like all the slums are like covered with white clothes, or whenever there is a foreign delegate or some presidents are coming. So all these. So that was my journey. So that is how like I identified or reassured my idea to myself also.
Wonderful. Okay. Oh, there are lots of questions. I'll keep quiet now.
Hi. For me, the doubt is like in a place where there is a group of men, she'll be showing the photo, and they will be saying that I think he's Samir. So how did you shoot that? Like they were not acting right. That how did you shoot that?
So again, like when I wrote the script, like I had this crazy experimental, aspiration to do something on the street as in happening, like as in the fashion of or mode of happening. So all these search part, we devised it like that even. And like I had my reservations and my anxieties, like I couldn't sleep over those days when I was going to street to shoot with the people to make it as a happening. But at the same time, like as I was so nervous that I will go to the people, making sure that like it's a fiction, something we are shooting, and like making sure then I realized that they are also not very much worried about that. So I started becoming less panicky when I was shooting, because anyway you are entering into their space. Whatever aesthetics reasons you justify with, the reality is you are entering to their real space with the camera. So there is a moral question. So I couldn't sleep. But later when I watched this footage and started stitching it together in the editing table, I somehow got relieved and find that till one point it worked. Definitely there are certain kind of doubts and on that periphery, but again physically, if you ask me physically how did I do it, so we will see these people and we will go with the camera, multiple cameras, including a GoPro camera that was on her dress, so we went there and closely, we will be very close to the people and shooting, and most of the time they will think that it's a TV crew or some news team coming and asking the question, and they will ask, are you from TV? Then we will say, no, we are not TV, we are independent filmmakers making something very small film. So, and they will say, okay, so this man is not dead. Then I will say, or my crew members will say, no, it's a kind of, it's that story we are doing. Then they will all the time, they all supported it. When. So they have never met him, yeah, and what they said in that take was truth that happened at that moment. They identified him as Samir. So then, as Dostoevsky said, reality is stranger than fiction. So we retain that reality in the sense.
The part where they kill him, that he's fallen from the train. Yeah. Was that part of dialogues, or was that
no?
They said it themselves?
They said themselves.
Hi. So I work in many slums across Bangalore, and in Mumbai also I work. And I am a unionist, and the sort of people I work with is very similar to what you have shown in the film, and the experiences as well. The primary thing is the politics of invisibilization of the laborers, the migrant laborers, which came to the fore as we saw during the lockdown. The number of deaths that happened and how each of these deaths was invisibilized by the state, by the state's inactivity and by its willful acts of violence, which is going on even now. So one of those conversations, they just casually mention they are just bringing in bulldozers. So, what I'm saying is just a few words of appreciation for the film, that you have shown the inner life of the city where the labor comes from where the cities are actually built, and which the city's middle class bourgeois life does not want to show to the larger elite audiences, which is present here. So I would thank you for that. Just.
This is in connection with the previous question. So when you approach these people and they are directing you, saying that, hey, this person was seen here, and they are dropping names of places. So was that according to the script, or was the script then formed according to the places that they are directing or they are saying?
Because in the script I had written one thing that the last person they meet directs them to Rafiq Nagar. Okay, so whenever maybe suppose if we have shot all those road scenes over 1 week, last day, when we thought that we had got something as we pursued. So then now we planted one person inside that happening to say that portion. No, he's from Rafiq Nagar, that I know. Reacted to that, yeah.
Scripted, or was that naturally happening?
The last person who directs.
Shirt person.
Yeah.
So that is the scripted part of it.
Yes.
Okay. that I just thought it was brilliantly scripted that way.
Hi. My question is, are we, like, as viewers, I could, I was very anxious while watching the movie. Throughout the movie, there is, like, a lot of gaze. People are walking through, and you've captured it brilliantly. So my question is, like, the girl is trying to help the person, and the help is actually not required. It's just, it's on your thing that we as society, we are trying to help a lot of people who we think, are helpless in some way. But what I could see over there was, like, people on the ground are hardened. They did not even, like, for a second, even flinch. While on the other hand, the girl, who I can, empathize with a lot, she cares too much about, and she's trying to, like, there's a savior complex over here. Like, I don't know what exactly to take from the film, but what exactly did you want the, audience to take from the film?
Yeah. So all those things, like, I don't define many areas, definitely, because that is the way I also think that, like, the audience also fill in terms of the psychological, like, as you said, the psychological layer of that particular character, the protagonist, Charu. So that is, like, something like I am trying to share with my audience also, like, throughout the journey. Like, whatever you imagine for the reason of that journey is, like, somewhere reflecting that character with that audience. So that is one thing I wanted to, but, like, I had my own, what do you say, understanding about the psychological layer of that character also, because I am someone like that, like, who is, like, more obsessive kind of, like, at times, like, when you pursue something, when you decide something, you just get obsessed with that. And
You mentioned that you were the painter, but I think you are the girl who is, yeah, in some way, and you are the victim.
yeah.
And you are trying to save yourself, like, from whatever the thing that she was going through, like, trying to save someone who is, like, I don't know, in some way, you can't be saved.
No, right now you are trying to read the author's mind. No, definitely, like, most of the time, like, as a maker, like, if I say all those reasons, it becomes again quite repetitive. Like, I will again say the same things that you have heard of. Like, this is how I constructed this character and the nuances, and that's why I use the blue, red, and the combination to enhance that feeling, all those. So all those things, like, whatever, like I am a filmmaker who thinks that, like, no work is, like, perfect or, like, finished. It's, like, in the process, and, like, somewhere it is left in the middle of that process, and, like, and the film, like, if it is good enough or, like, luckier enough, it will, like, reach people, and, like, it will reflect in its own way. Definitely it will express its naiveties also. So this is one naive part about that thing, but, like, that naivety was there in me as well, like, that kind of obsessive pursual of something that I think, I don't say that I believe in, because believing is a big word. I just think, like, spontaneously. So that is. And again, like, coming back to the point she asked, like, it was a film about a city that I imagined, and, like, and it's very simple for me, and I just took a walk to know the inner side of that city. And what I saw was a mountain of wasteland.
So the whole film is damp, wet, and overcast, and it brings in a sense of melancholy. So is it a deliberate choice?
Yeah, and we planned it to shoot in June. We were very sure, and we had only 3 months to prep, and like we hurriedly, and as we didn't have any money, so like we had to do it like quickly. So we just did all the pre-production work in 3 months, and like we were ready. And like anyway, the film was meant to be enacted as a guerrilla warfare. Like just going into the street and like wherever, like even the apartment we shot, like that was also without permission. So it's like that. And like that is why like we scheduled the party scene at the end of the shoot. So that like we were very sure that after the party scene and the fighting scene, the neighbors will come to know. So we scheduled the fighting scene, the last. And they came to know, they asked us, what is this? Are you shooting something here? Where is the permission? No, we were just rehearsing something and we are not shooting. And by the time, shoot is over. And police also picked us up from streets, from railway stations. And it's all nice, interesting stories that again, maybe write in some memoirs.
Hi. My question...
But I would say one final thing, it's quite liberating to go in that zone. To go in a guerrilla way when you make a film. Like you don't have any questions, you don't have any answers as well.
Hi, I love the film. Thank you for making something like this. And my question is to do with loneliness and identity. You named the film, interestingly, you named the film ID and not Identity. I was wondering how much did you think about loneliness while writing? Because it seemed like it was a journey, it was a lonely journey for both of them. And it was going parallel to each other, and it was going back and forth also. It almost felt like she lost someone dear to her when he died. To me, it felt like that. So how much did you think about that?
When I was writing, I knew that like this character is lonely because that is the kind of life I was also doing, like sharing the apartment with 3 friends only. But like we also were lonely in our own way and like figuring out things, because when we are thinking about your life as an artist, like it's quite panic situation, and like that is where like you get lonely. That you don't have to give stress to others, like who is living in the next door. So that is where the loneliness I identified with the character, and that is where like I thought that loneliness is like creating some kind of disturbance in her, and like she takes that crazy journey. So that loneliness, because for me, like we go through different phases of our life every day. Like it's not just one emotion that we are like held with. It's so like I thought that like in that frenzy of that emotions, like what or how the loneliness is driving her in all these things.
Hello? Yeah. So the protagonist in the movie is extremely idealistic. So I think that helped you create the situations. So did you feel that you could, during the writing, you could have toned down her idealism? Because in every situation you see that she goes for the most ideal or the positive scenario. And another question, like your first movie was 2012 and next was 22. So when can we see your next movie? Before 2032? Or?
Yeah, this year, I'm sure. Okay. Yes, there's Like that is why I couldn't watch the film with all of you. Like I was standing outside because of the same thing, idealism. Because that is like for me, that idealism is a problem when we start our expressions like for a bigger audience. So then like we start speaking up things that is like pleasing always. And like we are a generation who are like brought up heavily influenced in Iranian cinema and like the virtues of the villains also. So everything influences us to create that kind of idealism. And I, like from my childhood onwards, like I am a great fan of mainstream cinema. So I posit myself. So I always take that when there is a choice, then I go with that mass or popular way. Not like creating unnecessary conflict. Like if there is any inherent conflict, like I will definitely rely on that. But like I will not. But I will choose these additional elements also to make it like more pleasant, because like the story is so dark, then like something that you try to identify with, because otherwise it can be a very boring film also, very dispassionate, then like people can be angry and like all this, the treatment could backfire to me as well as a filmmaker. Then the kind of sense of reality I'm trying to create on screen, like whether it's hyper or sensitive or whatever realism I'm trying to create will backfire. Like if that bit of idealism is not there, like you yourself will stand up and like tell me all these galis.
Hi. I was wondering if you have managed to show the film to the people who were in the crowd, and if yes, how was their reaction different from people who are more privileged?
Not like I was very sure that was again like one of the reasons that I couldn't sleep when I was shooting this sequence. Like I realized at that moment itself that like I won't find them again. Like even if I go back to the same space, but like still I tried my level best, and I could bring many people who are inside that Basti areas, Rafiq Nagar and all those, and some caste also, for a Mami screening, and later we had some screenings in Bombay, so we could bring at least few of them, like at least for some 1% of relief. They all of them liked it. Like that is the kind of reaction I got everywhere. Like even in Busan, like people came to me and like hugged me and like said, "Don't worry, everything will be okay." And in Morocco, like me and Gitanjali Tapa, like we had the official screening in Marrakesh Film Festival, and like the next day the film is showing in a big single cinema hall. That is what we came to know. Then like we thought that anyway we have a car, so let's just go and like see the vibe around the theater. Like when we went there, the film just got over and the people were coming out, and they suddenly recognized Gitanjali, and all these people came and like again consoled me. सब ठीक हो जाएगा, हालत सब जगह खराब है, क्या करने का ये सब.
Okay, thank you everyone.
Thanks
Kamal,
Yes.
for a great session.